The United States stands at a tense and uncertain crossroads in October 2025. The federal government has now been partially shut down for more than 2 weeks after Congress failed to pass a spending bill for the new fiscal year. This shutdown, which began on October 1st, has forced hundreds of thousands of federal workers to stay home without pay, while others continue working without knowing when their next paycheck will come. Many national parks, research programs, and social services have paused operations. Economists warn that the longer this shutdown lasts, the more severe the effects will be, not just on government employees, but on small businesses, families, and even international confidence in the American economy. Air travel has already been affected as thousands of air traffic controllers and TSA workers call out or reach exhaustion, leading to growing delays and cancellations across major airports. In Washington, the political standoff remains bitter. President Donald Trump's administration insists that it will not sign any funding legislation that limits executive authority or redirects resources away from its current priorities, including border security and foreign operations. Meanwhile, congressional Democrats and some moderate Republicans accuse the administration of manufacturing the crisis for political leverage. Multiple bills to reopen the government have failed to pass both chambers, each side blaming the other for refusing compromise. Public opinion polls show frustration rising across the political spectrum, with many Americans angry that partisan battles are paralyzing essential services. Amid this, the administration has taken several controversial steps. Thousands of federal workers were warned that their positions might be eliminated if the shutdown continues, prompting widespread fear and legal challenges from labor unions. The White House has also faced scrutiny for new restrictions on journalists covering the Pentagon. Several major media outlets withdrew their reporters after refusing to agree to revised guidelines they said would censor critical coverage. Press freedom advocates argue that these moves erode transparency at a time when openness is most needed. Internationally, the US has continued to exert its influence, but with a noticeably cautious tone. President Trump recently spoke with Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky, but expressed reluctance to move forward with a new long-range missile package, citing both budget constraints and domestic defense priorities. Reports suggest that a phone call from Russian President Vladimir Putin influenced that hesitation, reigniting debate over the administration's foreign policy independence. At the same time, covert operations against drug cartels in Latin America have expanded, showing a willingness to use military power even as domestic spending stalls. Critics warn that such unilateral decisions, without proper congressional oversight, could set dangerous precedents. Inside the country, social tension continues to build. Demonstrations are sweeping across major cities under the banner of the No Kings protests, organized by large coalitions, including civil rights and labor groups. These protests accuse the administration of overreach and authoritarian behavior. Yet, the mood of the nation is not uniformly defiant. Many Americans express exhaustion rather than anger. In smaller towns, citizens gather to volunteer, raise donations for unpaid workers, and urge lawmakers to compromise. Despite polarization, there remains a current of resilience, an unspoken belief that the country, even through hardship, will endure and adapt. Economically, the shutdown has frozen data collection by agencies like the Labor Department and the Bureau of Economic Analysis, meaning that investors and policymakers are operating without up-to-date information. The Social Security Administration has warned that the annual cost of living adjustment for retirees may be delayed if the shutdown continues much longer. This uncertainty hits hardest among vulnerable populations, seniors, veterans, and low-income workers who depend on federal benefits to get by. Analysts estimate that every week of closure costs the US economy billions of dollars, yet the political impasse shows little sign of resolution. Meanwhile, the administration's critics highlight contradictions. While funds are withheld for social programs, defense spending and certain executive projects remain untouched. Supporters argue that the president is demonstrating toughness in the face of political obstruction, maintaining focus on national priorities such as security and energy independence. The divide between these perspectives captures the broader struggle over what direction the United States should take towards stronger centralized authority or renewed bipartisanship, and institutional checks, the mood of the media. Landscape mirrors the national divide. Conservative outlets emphasize the need for order, claiming the protests and political gridlock threaten stability. Progressive voices stress accountability and the defense of democratic norms. Ordinary citizens, bombarded with conflicting narratives, find it increasingly difficult to discern fact from opinion. Trust in institutions, from Congress to the courts to the press, has eroded, even as those institutions remain the foundation of American democracy. Yet amid all this turbulence, there are still signals of hope. Local governments continue to operate, communities rally behind public workers, and civic organizations push for reform. The story of the United States has always been one of confrontation, followed by reinvention, and this period is no different. The challenges are immense: economic strain, political division, and questions about executive power. But so too is the potential for renewal. Many observers believe this crisis could force a reckoning that strengthens, rather than weakens, democratic participation. In the end, what happens next depends not only on politicians in Washington, but on the millions of citizens watching, voting, and speaking up. The American experiment has survived wars, depressions, and scandals. It may again emerge from this episode with clearer purpose and a stronger civic spirit. The coming weeks will determine whether leaders can rise above partisan loyalty to restore functionality to government and trust among the people. For now, the world looks on, aware that the fate of the United States still shapes the balance of global politics, economics, and ideals.